let me share a couple things in the chat first. Where did that go? I don't have an agenda, but here is a sign-in sheet. You probably received this as an email, but if you didn't, here is the our Google document on security and collections. So we got a pretty good sized group that Rita has helped put together.
All that link is asking to request access for the sign-in sheet.
Isn't? I thought I took care of that. All right, let's try that again. Hopefully, is that the same link? Hopefully it'll work now.
Yeah, it works.
Ah, good. So we have a Google document. When you're finished signing in, maybe we'll go straight to there and look at that, and we'll be looking for any suggestions or ideas. We also, just to remind everyone, we have a symposium which moved, and so it'll be on Monday, June 14th at 11 a.m. Central Time. That's 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and there'll be 3 talks in that. I'll lead it off. I think Brita will go, and then Tim White will give a talk. And then we'll have time for discussion after that too. It seems like there's a lot that we could do with this committee, but we haven't, I guess I haven't done a whole lot with it yet. Let me get to the Google document. Oh, there it is.
Sorry, Paul. I have the document now, but it's still asking me to request edit access. Maybe it's just
sign-in document.
Yeah, maybe it's just me though.
No, it's probably me. No one else has signed in. So what? Anyone with this link? Oh, there it is. Boy, oh boy.
Is today Monday? Does this feel like a Monday morning? No, I guess it's Friday.
Friday.
The opposite of Monday. I'm all run out. All right, let's try that again. Sorry, folks.
It's working now.
Whew. Hurdle 1. Wow. So I think originally we were going to have a symposium on collection, security, theft, and communication methods at Edinburgh in 2020 would have been. And we had quite a few talks lined up for that. I think it was close to 15, at least a dozen, I think. And then we had to cancel that, and with the pandemic and stuff, tried to get stuff for Florida, and we only got really only got 2, and then Brita kind of joined in afterwards. And so we haven't had much interest in giving a talk. And so I'm a little not sure what to do, if we should continue this, or if people are interested in it, and put out another call for a symposium in Edinburgh and see if we get more folks coming in, or wait a while. Any ideas or suggestions? I understand that the whole pandemic thing was kind of goofy, and that kind of messed things up. I think we lost a lot of momentum that we had coming out of the Chicago meeting with the.
Hey, Paul, what was the distribution of the talks? Were many of them from Europe?
There were a few from Europe, and I only remember that because a couple of them had some problems with the English, but I'm not really sure what the distribution for that was.
I mean, maybe that just wasn't top of mind this past year, you know, with everything else going on. It could be that. I can't really see anything that would have changed in the community. It's just that maybe other issues are been more pressing.
I would put out a call for papers again.
Yeah, I guess that wouldn't hurt anything.
Put it,
Yeah.
put it out, and if you get something, then do a symposium, and if not, we can pass it over and you can try another year.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm here for the first time, and I mean, in this committee, and I think, it really wasn't on my mind, as Barbara said, and I would really also suggest to give it another try. I would certainly think about, contributing next time.
Yeah, it might-
How long are the talks? 15 minutes?
I think these talks are going to be a half hour with AIC.
Okay.
And so I think it's a 2-hour time slot. So we'll have, no, the talks will be 20 minutes. So we'll have 1 hour of talks and then 1 hour where we can have discussion if there's interest.
Okay.
So I guess I'd like people to look over the Google document, which hopefully you can look at. And maybe I should put an edit feature in there. Rita, should I have that editable?
Editable.
It's
we eat
editable, Paul. It's editable.
Those are your
Should be.
donuts, Tim.
I don't know if people want to select suggestion mode, just so we can see the changes or not. It's,
Yeah, that might be best as suggestion mode. And can I do that, or can you do that? I would do it, but I know how it'd take me 3 times to get it right. Are people able to access that document?
Yeah, it pops up.
so at least for me in the top right, there's that little box, and the options are editing, suggesting, and viewing. And I think the default is editing, but if you change it to
Yeah.
suggesting, then we'll see what everyone.
All right, can you
Contributed.
do that? Because I don't think I can actually change it.
You can only change it for yourself. You can't set it globally. So it's the little pencil up in the right-hand corner. If you click on that, you can see the choices.
I have a request edit access.
Why is he editing, suggesting?
I don't have a pencil.
Hmm.
Hmm.
A little blue box up in the right-hand corner that has editing, and then something that looks like a pencil.
Mm-mm.
That's it.
No, I have a share, but nothing
Oh.
else.
I think I'm in the same boat as you are. I have a blue share button.
Ah,
Had a pencil and I clicked on suggesting, and then it went away.
oh.
And now I don't know what I'm in now.
So the way I see it, there's the blue share button, and directly under that is this lighter blue box that has the pencil and a little downward pointing
Hmm.
triangle.
Mm-mm.
I don't have that.
No, that's missing.
Hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't see that either.
Do you see any options for, headings or changing the font or anything like that? Do you see
Mm-mm.
any of that? So
Can you
there's-
refresh and try one more time? I just changed.
there's a little upward facing caret next at the
Ah.
far end of the screen. And if you push that, you might see more options, but I'm not sure that'll work. Never
I
mind.
just refreshed and all of it came in.
Okay.
Oh, yes, now I refreshed and it came into, yes. Perfect.
Excellent. So I guess I'd really like folks to look at this over the next few weeks and come up with some suggestions, ideas, what we can do, things we can investigate. And then we can discuss this after the symposium on, what is it? I just said it, the 14th.
Are there any, for any collections, are there any published best practices for security? I mean, in the herbarium world, it just doesn't come up, so I'm woefully ignorant about that.
Mm.
Yeah, I think you'll find the fine art world, it has been all over this. I mean, there's a separate society that our operations guy goes to. And I think they actually were a speaker, Paul, in Scotland.
Yeah,
And I suspect they might be willing to do it again. I'm surprised they
Yes,
did.
I will reach out to them. And we also had a security person from the Field Museum that was going to give a talk,
Right.
who I think would have been really nice.
I mean, is there anybody from the Smithsonian on this call? On this Zoom? Because, I mean, they certainly have a very, active security presence. And, one question, right, to me always is, what do we mean by security?
Right.
Because there's electronic things that can be done, things that can be done with guards. There's things that can be, behavioral things. I mean, believe it or not, I was on 2 security calls before this meeting this morning, just talking about prox access and alarms and how they're operating in a new facility, or not operating in a new facility is more like it. I always try to take it from the point of view, of Rob Waller of, risk assessment,
Right.
and making distinctions between galleries and collection storage or research spaces. And how are we monitoring, the activity of people? In our case, right, at a university, everything from, undergraduates that are engaged in research projects or student assistant projects to scholars using the collections to John Q. Public on the floor that's, looking at objects that are in open displays. There's so much technology out there, that, but I guess I always ask the question of our guy, is that necessary? You can draw a pixel map around objects in open display that sets off an alarm. In fact, I think when we were in Berlin for Spinach, I was at one of the art museums and I kept leaning into a painting, not realizing the brow on my hat was setting off the alarm. And the guard kept coming over, sir, would you mind backing up? Would you mind backing up? And I'm like, sorry.
I have to say the recent release of the, I don't know if it's actually was recent, the release of the Netflix show on the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist has really kind of triggered a lot of conversation, at least at Harvard,
Yeah.
among the various museums, and everyone is kind of thinking about this topic at the moment.
What was the name of that program?
This is a robbery. There might
Okay.
be more.
Okay, I'll look it up.
No, I know one of the talks we had was someone from Eastern Europe, and I don't remember their name. But they had a heat detection where they could monitor where exactly people were standing within the gallery. It would pick up the heat signatures of folks, so you could see exactly, not only would it be for security, but you could also just see how people move through the gallery, which was kind of an interesting concept.
I mean, I guess what was so striking to me about the whole feather thief story was about how I could totally exactly see how that could happen in so many museums. And there were no galleries involved. It was just, a collection, and you can, anybody who manages a big collection, how easy how long it can be before a certain area is opened, and how you put so much trust in people. And that it's the collections that maybe don't have a large public presence, that don't have all of these security issues with things that are obvious, things in the public. It's more the ones that have collections that that aren't accessed by the public, but can still, be vandalized by an outsider. And so, I mean, it just left me wondering, what's the medium, and what do you recommend for the average collection? you know, and it's obviously scalable. The bigger the collection, the bigger the issue. But is this an area where spinach could ultimately provide some guidance?
Mm. Yeah, we've had problems at the Smithsonian with people coming in and visitors and even, you know, postdocs and other researchers coming in, and our books disappear out of the library. You know, all of a sudden we've had books disappear. And so all our rare books now are transferred over downstairs into the rare book section of the library. And you need practically signed permission from God to go down there and look at anything. You know, but yeah, I mean, we trusted people. We didn't have any reason not to trust them, you know, and the next thing you know, books are missing.
Is that an open library? Can
Yes.
anybody from the
Yeah.
public?
Not to public, only to research staff.
Research staff within the museum or research staff in general?
Well, most of it was research staff within the Department of Botany. You know, we have visitors come in every year and stuff like that. But we had a postdoc come in and we found out that when he left, so did a number of books.
Yeah, on Wednesday, I had a group of 60 volunteers from little herbaria around Western Australia come in, and I showed one small group the types room, just as a treat. And one of the chaps just looked at me and said, "So what stops a researcher just taking a piece off of these collections and taking it away with them?"
Not a goddamn
And I
thing.
said, "Not a thing." And I said, "You have to have just a little bit of trust in them. And if you find something's happened, you blacklist them. And that's all you can do. I mean, you can't, half the time you can't prove it and you don't know. You don't want to stand over people that are doing solid
Yeah,
research."
that's the tough thing, right? Is because we often encourage browsing for access, for
Yeah.
accessibility, because none of us are staffed so that we could hover over, you know, the retrieve and, you know, request and retrieve model. I mean, that's a common thing in art galleries that, you know, never would the Yale University Art Gallery allow a researcher, no matter what their credentials are, to browse their collection. It's all request and retrieve. I mean, there's another story out there. It's called The Map Thief. If I'll find the link for it and stick it in the chat, of some thefts at Yale from the Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library, where they had cameras over the desks where people were browsing, and this gentleman had a like an X-Acto knife blade, you know, in between his fingers, slicing out rare maps and selling them through various channels. And when he made one of those slices, the knife fell out of his, the blade fell out of his fingers onto the floor, and that's the only reason it was detected. And that had gone on for probably 20 years, at least with this one individual.
Wow.
You know, so when they went back and checked all of his requests, you know, they found that there was something missing in everything.
It's sort of similar to what was happening to a lot of small museums out west. I'm picturing towns like Pioche, Nevada, Caliente. They have these little tiny museums and libraries, and they had original cowboy art up on the walls. And people would come in and use the library. There's one librarian and didn't pay attention, and they would just cut the paintings out of the frames and take them with them. And so there's a rash of those sometime right around 2000, 2005 or something like that, I think.
Yeah, we had.
The occasional kleptotypes are a good example as well, that are surfacing from time to time.
Yep.
And that can be, you know, either in one own institution or happening in one own institution, or really, you know, outside when you send the specimens on loan. It is just really all based on a lot of trust.
The
What did you
Carnegie
call them?
Library.
Kleptotypes?
Sorry.
Sorry, Michaela, what did you call them? Kleptotypes?
Kleptotypes, yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought you said.
Unfortunately, it was a practice that used to be allowed, you know, so you don't really know in some cases whether the person was all it was, it had been encouraged, oh, just take a little piece, that's fine, you know, that's not, it
Sure.
wasn't that uncommon, so you don't really know who you could go after, or it's probably, in most cases, the people who did that are long dead, so it doesn't really matter, but
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, historically, I think a lot of that has happened. I know the Smithsonian, we used to joke about the kleptotypes.
mhm.
We'd have like a little T90 inflorescence, a tape to the sheet, and then somebody would actually draw the rest of the plant. And then it was labeled. And we have a couple of those when we call them kleptotypes, because who knows? They may have had permission. We don't know if they did or not. But historically, we have hovered over a couple of our visitors that came in that wanted to do some take some samples off the herbarium sheets, and we told them no because they were types, you know, and they insisted upon it. So what we did was the couple of us started circling them. So every so often we just pass them as we were doing business in the herbarium, or pretending like we were doing business in the herbarium, and we just kind of kept an eye and monitor them until they finally ended their day and went away. But just to make sure that they didn't take anything off the sheets. But you can't keep hovering over your visitors all the time. I mean, it's how do you trust somebody? How do you prevent this type of theft all the time? I don't know.
Amy, were you gonna say something?
Just when we were talking about thefts at institutions, the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh, which is in the same building as the Carnegie Museum, had ongoing for about 20 or 30 years. The head of the rare book room was in cahoots with a local book dealer, and they stole, I think, $8 million worth of maps, books, plates, cut plates out of volumes, including the Curtis volumes, which were the only complete set in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
And they finally got caught when the library did an audit. And they went to trial. They were found guilty. And because of COVID, they just got house arrests. And it's supposed to
Everyone else.
be the biggest library heist ever. And I used to go to this used bookstore and buy and sell books and things like that. And he's still open. His wife is running the store now. It's incredible.
That's the
And
other
this guy-
thing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I say this guy just kept to himself. He literally carried things out of the building. Nobody stopped him. It's incredible.
That was the other shocking thing about the feather thief, was the lack of repercussions. And a lot of that had to do with the institutional reputation, and not really, you know, that's another piece of this is, you know, bad publicity. And maybe there's a calculation sometimes that, well, what's worse, losing a few of those dusty old things in the cabinets, or, you know, getting bad press and not having as many customers come through the door. And that's, again, another case where, you know, maybe spinach could help institutions understand the value of their collections better, and, you know.
Right, because in that case, the judge didn't really understand the value of the feathers. He just thought, well, they're old feathers, who cares? And so that's one problem. And so I kind of see like 4 issues coming up. It's securing the collections themselves, trying to find a way to trust users who use them, and then finding what is missing or noticing what is missing. Because in my collection, if something goes missing, it could be years before I would ever realize it. And then just not communicating the loss, and you know, someone said blacklisting, or at least letting people know that this has happened. Because a lot of these things I've never heard about. Occasionally on PaleoNet, I know in Australia that someone's took a rock saw and they sawed off some from a national park or something, Stegosaurus footprints, which were a sacred Aboriginal site, and they sawed them off. And so they put on notice that, you know, we shouldn't be buying Stegosaurus footprints from Australia. Let them know if anyone's trying to sell them. But there's a lot of stuff which I never hear about, apparently, with museum theft and stuff like that going on. So it's kind of at least 4 issues, or probably more than that.
Yeah, what's interesting here is many of the things we're talking about are with the academic community that are using our collections. I mean, like you were describing, Barbara, of somebody, snipping a leaf. I mean, it's some level, it's a risk analysis. If you want to continue to make your collections browsable and accessible, what level of risk are you willing to accept? We know we can all lock cabinets, lock doors, but then it puts us into that, request and retrieve mode that none of us are staffed to handle. So, you have to vet, who you're letting into your collections, which is we're kind of making those judgments anyway.
Yeah, I think one of the good news is happening is our digitizing our collections. We're finding that more and more people are going online and looking at the images versus borrowing. And that may be in the future part of our ability to collect, to protect our collections, is to digitize everything, make the images accessible to the public, and reducing the amount of loans that go out, and maybe reducing the amount of visitors that come in, which I think is bad, but it has its good and its bad point. But if somebody can go online and look at the images, I know I'm working on a manuscript right now, and one of my co-authors is so pleased that everybody is putting their images online, because from Paris, he can now, with COVID, he's been able to access everybody's collections and do identifications long distance without actually borrowing the collections. So there's good for that. I don't know how we can trust our visitors, but I think communication is a big thing. If you do have a problem, I think we need to just talk amongst ourselves. And I know sometimes it's hard to pin down who may be the culprit. You don't want to give somebody, you don't want to, slander somebody's good name if something happened and then you discover it after he leaves or they leave and it wasn't really them. So we need to kind of communicate a little bit and kind of bounce how we can to help each other. But if it comes up that you got a person that goes from herbarium to herbarium and you're seeing the same amount of damage happening, or I say herbarium, I work in a herbarium, but any collection, if you see somebody go from institution to institution and you're seeing some damage, you're seeing some questionable practices, then communicating may give the next institution a heads up, and maybe we just pull those collections for this person. Okay, we will, the benefit of the doubt, but we will pull the collections for you and you can look at them, and then we'll, the pull and retrieve type thing,
All right, I think we're just about out of time. But if people want to look over, please look over that Google document, make suggestions, come up with ideas that maybe we should explore more, and we can, please join us on the Monday, the June 14th, and we'll discuss more of this after the symposium.